Hello, everyone. It's nice to see you all. Thank you for joining us for our first Spark Communities of Practice of the school year. My name is Jasmin Brown, and I will be presenting over starting the school year strong. And we have some other of our colleagues here on the call. I'm really excited that you guys are able to join us today. Our communities of practice are short, brief, and hopefully you can take something back to your classrooms. All right. So our agenda for today is we're just going to look at the Spark, some conference data. We're going to look at just kind of what the Spark communities of practices are all about. We're going to talk a little bit about classroom routines, scheduling, collaboration, organizing IEPs, and a little bit about accommodations and modifications, and just some tips and tricks that you can take with you during this time of the year. Most of you guys, I believe, on this call were at the actual conference this summer. So thank you guys for joining us there. We had well over 100 participants come to that conference. More than half had had less than 1 year of experience. So that was really cool to see all of these fresh faces that are new to education and special education. The current understanding of the special education role improved by about 25% from the beginning to the end of the conference. And the overall experience for the Spark conference was 3.64 out of 4. So not too bad. The most common topics that were brought up during our conference that people said that they wanted to learn more about this year, and these are topics that we will definitely be considering for our Spark communities of practice, and that is over behavior, interventions, goals, paras, working with paras, data collection, classroom management, and instruction. So our Spark Communities of Practice is just a place for us to meet monthly. These are designed to just have some collaboration and have some support throughout the school year so that you're not left alone throughout the school year. We also have some other layers on to keep you from being left alone throughout the school year as well, like the peer leads that you have already heard from. Spark is your place to stay connected and informed here with our people here in Oklahoma. Each session will help special educators strengthen their skills, and you'll be able to see different strategies that you can bring to your classrooms. We would like to take time to just build on your day-to-day and learn about any challenges that you're having and address those challenges. And we really want to make sure that everyone knows that the Spark communities of practice are for anyone. Anyone can join these calls. So if you have friends that are also special educators that maybe are not part of the Spark program, you can send them the link, share the link. They can join the sessions as well. Or if they're early career special educators, our topics will always be catered to an early career educator, but that doesn't mean that someone else that's within special education couldn't learn something from the session, especially since they're pretty short and brief. All of our sessions are recorded, and I will always send out a Spark YouTube playlist for you guys to view those sessions every time. And I did want to make something very clear that these Spark communities of practice, or COP is how you might see it written, these are not the same thing as those of you guys who are participating in the Spark program. And these are not the same thing as the Spark CEC live events. So these are two completely different things. We do these every month, and we have a topic that we talk about, and it's just 30 minutes. The Spark CEC live events are their own thing, and you all received a letter that are participating in the program, and in your letters are all the details on how to access that program. But today's conversation will not be about that. But for those of you guys who only registered for this event for today, if you have not registered for the rest of them, here is the QR code. You can scan that, and that'll give you access to the rest of the sessions. So if you have not already pre-registered, I'll also throw them in the chat for those of you guys who don't want to scan with your phone. But if you have not registered, they'll be every fourth Tuesday of the month, or basically from 3:45 to 4:15. However, we will not have one hosted for December because between November and December, they're very short months, right? And then we will not do one in May. Most of you guys are finishing out the school year in May. So we'll do ours last one, April 27th. So it is in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and move past this page for you guys. So feel free to grab that, take that link so that you can share it with your colleagues or anyone else who you feel like would benefit from joining. So our classroom and routines. Let's take a look at some big components to being an educator in general and a special educator. You definitely want to make sure that this time of the year, some of you guys have already started, some of you guys have been in for a few weeks, some of you guys, this is your first week, really establish those routines early. Teach those routines, model those routines, and practice those routines every day. And even when you feel like you've done them enough, come back to them, right? Be consistent. Use that same language and cues and expectations every time. If you use the same language and you're consistent, your students are going to understand what to do. And keeping the directions clear is also great for our students. We want to keep them simple so that we can keep smaller tasks for them and so that they can have a better understanding of what they are expected. Using visual support. So if you don't already have a visual schedule or things of that nature for your students, that's a great one to keep readily available for your students in your classroom. And again, with consistency, you want to build predictability. You want your students to know what to expect every time. And we want to reinforce positively. Allow when students follow directions correctly, we want to give them some kudos. We want to tell them, hey, I really liked how you got to work immediately when you sat down in your chair. You got started on your work. I really appreciate that. Give them those positive reinforcements and tell them exactly what they are doing. And then again, practice, practice, practice as forever, right? Even after the first few weeks of school, come back to them, especially after Labor Day, they had a day off, come back again and revisit those routines and procedures so that you can stay consistent with your class. Relationships are everything, right? Building trust with your students, not just your students, but your parents, your teachers that you're working with. You are not in this alone. You have a whole team of people that all support that one child and all the children that you work with, right? So when you're thinking about your students, it is so important to start building those relationships. Think about what are they into? What do they like? What are their triggers? What's the best way to communicate with them? We don't want to, say certain things that are going to trigger them. Like if you know that the minute you start talking about lunch because lunch is coming up, they're no longer going to be listening in your class, then that might be a trigger to not do that because now they're no longer going to be working on what you need them to do, right? Same with positive greetings. Check in with them at the door, check in and meaningful conversations with them at their check-ins. How was your dinner last night? Little things to just strike conversations. Establish yourself as part of the student support team and that you're not the fix-it-all. You guys are going to work together to fix what they need. So having that be part for your students. And, just again, you're going to hear this a lot today. Be consistent and predictable when you're getting to know your students. Parents are just as important to start building rapport with. If you have not already, started emailing those parents or making that positive phone call home to your parents, now's the time to do so. Within that first 2 weeks of school, I know you have a billion things to do, but those are the people that are going to be in your corner. That's their kiddo, and they're going to really help you throughout the school year. Just hearing something positive about their kids or what's going on in the classroom, they would really appreciate that. And it'll help you kind of get to know what is their means of communication. If you realize emailing is not really their thing, then, that might not be the best way to communicate with them. Maybe the phone call is the best, or maybe your school has cool apps like Parent Square and things like that, where you can actually send a text message type communication through. Maybe that's a faster way of communicating for them. And definitely get to know your teachers during this time. You have a long school year with them and you guys are working for the same end game. You're all working with that kiddo and you guys need to know how to work with each other and just getting to know each other a little bit and start building some trust because you have that piece when you're entering in someone's classroom that, even if you think about someone entering your classroom, there's a very much like, well, this is my room, right? That's kind of how it always feels, but that, well, I'm not here to take over your room. I'm here to be part of it. So let's build a relationship together. So collaboration, back to still thinking about those teachers, we want to collaborate with our general education teachers and our paras. Partnerships are so critical and are essential for success. So this is the time of the year when, if you have not had your chance to talk with them individually, now is the time to start setting up those meetings and sharing those IEP summaries and accommodations with your teachers. Review the schedule. You need to know what their daily schedule and routine is so that you can actually build your schedule, right? And then share what that schedule is going to be and stick with it, right? Making sure that you're, pulling kids when you said you were going to, and vice versa. They know you're coming at this time, and so they need to be okay to release the child to come to your room. Clarify communication expectations. So is it something that y'all are doing weekly check-ins? Are you emailing through check-ins? Are there shared folders? Do y'all have biweekly meetings where you discuss students and data and lesson planning? Thinking about concrete supports for co-planning. How are you adjusting assignments? How are you modeling strategies? You want to kind of keep some things consistent. So what's working in your classroom? Maybe share those strategies and techniques with your teachers. Be proactive about problem solving. Don't wait to the last minute to see a student super struggle and then try to intervene, right? Building relationships through small things. You could do like a quick little appreciation note to say, anything to just kind of start building those moments where you guys can partner together. And again, remember, we're partnering here for students. We're not here to direct. No one is here to direct a student. You're working together to build certain strategies and growth for a student. So when you're thinking about your scheduling, when you're after, at this point you have a book of students that you have IEPs for, and you now have to design a schedule. This is probably one of the hardest things that you have to do, thinking about all the kiddos that you service and how are you going to schedule reoccurring meetings with your students on a consistent basis throughout the school year. So some things to consider would be starting with their services. Grab that IEP at a glance tool. Look at the service needs for each service area, whether it be ELA, math, behavior, and others of the areas that you're responsible for that student. Try to group those students together who have similar ages and skill deficits. Just because a fifth grader has the same skill deficit as a first grader, that probably is not an appropriate person to pair together during sessions. Avoid scheduling time for IEP services during core instruction. And I'm sorry, I skipped the part about gathering the general education schedule, which we already kind of mentioned, but just making sure you're looking at that so that you can avoid scheduling the IEP services during those core instructional timeframes. You don't want to pull them from certain subjects that they still need to learn. And just being reflective on collaborating early with those classroom teachers and related service providers. So here's an example of a service overlay schedule. This was actually shared in one of the presentations at the Spark conference. If you were there, then you might have seen this, but this is just a reminder of how you can kind of grab areas of needs over there on the left, and then kind of grouping students with the time frames of how you can kind of service all of these students. So I'll kind of let you just look at this for a moment. This isn't a perfect situation. This is just what worked for this person. Another way to look at this might be a glance at a chunk of time, like what that might look like. So this is a second grade example of how the days broke down from, you have your morning meeting block, you have the ELA block, you have the math block, and then you have it kind of broke up of who you're going to see, what skill set you're going to work on with them, and how long you plan on working with them. Organizing your instruction. Think about making intensive instructional decisions. Here's another way to think about grouping your students and what it is that you're going to try to get through. You have a lot to get through in a little bit of time, and so you want to make sure we're intensifying the time that you have with them. So when we're thinking about your IEPs and organization, our goal is to prevent compliance issues and service students and making sure that we're meeting the needs of those students. So thinking about that, IEP systems to consider is creating a system for tracking due dates, service minutes, evaluation timelines, and progress reports. Summarize key IEP details for quick reference in accommodations, health plans, communication needs. Store IEPs in a secure but accessible format, digital folders, teacher friendly summary sheets. I know I used to have summary sheets that were like Excel sheets that had a list of different accommodations and the students, because as a general education classroom teacher, and then I would have a list of all my students and what they needed, and I would have a list of what kind of accommodations every student needed. That helped me see what resources I needed to have available for each class period. So you might consider a tool like that for yourself, and you might consider creating a tool like that for your teachers, your general education teachers. Another great system is we have technology at our side. Calendaring, using the digital calendars. I know I don't know what my life would be like if I did not use my Outlook calendar every day and literally schedule out what I'm doing throughout the day. You might be a paper pencil. You might need a paper pencil scheduler. That's fine as well. But I will say, even putting those reminders in a digital calendar is helpful, because now you're not only looking at something in your book, but you're getting a reminder. It could sometimes come in as an email, a ding, whatever it might be. Thinking about this for progress monitoring checkpoints, IEP meetings that are coming up, general education teacher meetings, so that you can have like a rolling system of, okay, this is when I meet with second grade, this is the time that I meet with first grade. Data checks, whatever you feel like you need to put on a calendar to help remind you, use the calendar. Align IEP goals to classroom routines, identify natural opportunities to collect data. So just thinking about everything that's happening in the day-to-day and how you can collect the data as it's happening. And those quick ed plan IEP at a glances, those are great for yourself, but those are really great to print out for your general education teachers so that they have the IEPs for each of those students, so it'll be a little bit easier for them to read and understand if you could have those printed and review those with those teachers. You would be surprised at how many teachers don't know how to read that. And if you're working with those students, they need to understand what it is that you're providing for those students, why they need all these services. There's a reason for those things, and that y'all are working together to make that happen. And if they have a little bit of the insight of what is on the IEP and what it means, and how they're responsible for a lot of that as well, I think that it'll help them, and it'll help you, and it'll help the student. So thinking about accommodations and modifications, we want to think about the essential legal requirement of these items, right? Let's go back and just think about those definitions of what an accommodation is. This changes how students access learning and demonstrate their knowledge, whereas a modification changes what students learn or are expected to master. This is something that you may be more familiar with, but I will tell you, your general education teachers might not be. So making sure that they understand the differences, and that even for you, if you're not sure of the differences, that you know the differences as well. So thinking more about some differences about accommodations and modifications, the accommodation is going to allow the student to complete the same assignment and assessments as their peers in that general education classroom. The format, setting, and response method may change, but the foundational requirement remains the same. So the end task is still the same, whereas a modification reduces or it changes the assignment or the assessment in a fundamental way. So modifications will modify the learning target, and it's going to significantly alter the outcome. So they're no longer expected the same thing as someone else because you're modifying it. Accommodations should not. They're not going to alter curriculum standards or expectations. They still have to follow the same curriculum standards and expectations. They remove barriers to learning, not reduce the expectations. So we're providing some help for them to grasp the materials. We're providing equal access to curriculum and instruction, level the playing field for students with disabilities, and allow students to show what they know about interference from their disability. So like we really want to make sure that accommodations are there and they're going to help support their everyday, and that the kiddos know how to use their accommodations. So we should always teach these strategies to our students on what's expected for their accommodations. We can't expect them to just know what this means. We have to train them on it. Even as the youngest to the oldest, even if they're in high school, you can't just expect them to know what it is. You need to make sure that you're training them how to use it so that they can become independent at using it themselves. Now, the early elementary grades, they'll probably never be like perfectly able to just know to just grab and do. They might be more with reminding you to do it, but they're going to need more help with that. Same as a high schooler, you might be like, well, you're almost an adult. You should be able to know that you need to do this. You still probably need to give them some reminders. So thinking about explaining what the accommodation is, describing why it helps and how it addresses their specific needs, model how to use it correctly and in various contexts, provide immediate feedback and guidance and guided practice, and allow for independent practice, reflect and review the effectiveness with the students. And same as teaching those accommodations to students, you want to make sure that you're also teaching how to do these accommodations and modifications, like that you're training those general education teachers on how to do them as well. Model it for them, model what that actually means, show them how to do the accommodation. They're responsible for them as well. But if they don't understand how to give that accommodation, you probably need to show it to them and explain how this accommodation works and why we're trying to do this. Sometimes people need to hear the why. So some examples about accommodations are, it's an outline guide, like guided notes. That's a great one. Graphic organizers for writing, completion of math assignments in chunks. I liked a chunking folder to help with that accommodation in class. It was just like a manila folder that I cut 3 windows in, and then I would open it up. Student knew that they were only focusing on the first 2 questions, and then they weren't as what's the word, overwhelmed with seeing so much information. Or it might be where you're just taking the text and you're making it bigger and only putting 1 or 2 questions on a whole page to giving them more space to write. But whereas the modification reduces the notes with only some concepts being provided to the student, the graphic organizer is turned in as a writing assignment, and only half of the math problems are assigned. So instead of just chunking it, you're only giving them part of it, and that's all they're doing. Chunking it doesn't mean that you're only giving them those 2 questions. You're giving the first 2, and then you're saying, open the next window, do the next 2. They're still doing the rest of the questions. Here's another list of accommodations and modifications for completing assignments. Things like shortened assignments, that would be a modification. Creating posters, models, videos instead of written assignments, you have to kind of look at how you're doing this. If it changes the outcome of what the student is supposed to be learning, then that would be more of a modification than an accommodation, but it could be either or. Orally take tests and quizzes, that's an accommodation. Dictate answers using speech to text is an accommodation. A live scribe is an accommodation. A graphic organizer instead of writing an essay is a modification. Again, that's in place of writing the essay. More completing assignment accommodations and modifications to consider. Extra time to complete the assignment. is an accommodation. Demonstrating knowledge by pointing out objects or pictures is an accommodation. Completing the assignment with a peer or buddy is an accommodation. Using Google or Siri is an accommodation. Online calendars for due dates and reminders is an accommodation. And some more modifications and accommodations. These are all actual accommodations for the classroom, thinking about preferential seating, reduced visual and sound distractions, study centers, adapted desks, chairs, and equipment to meet the needs for students. And then the last few to think about is leaving class early to avoid crowds. That's an accommodation. Adult support in the cafeteria accommodation, and frequent breaks during extended assignments. So these are not all of the accommodations and modifications that exist in the world, but these are just some examples to kind of get you thinking about that. And these are just some tips to take with you to put in your teacher pockets as we're moving into the school year. I know some of you guys have been stressed out. You started school, but hopefully now that you've seen your kids and you're kind of getting into the work, things are starting to kind of connect and kind of flow. So thinking about building habits and systems to last all year, you want to really start now. What kind of systems are you going to take with you? Start with clear expectations and follow through, making sure that we're collecting baseline data within the first 3 to 4 weeks. Over communicate with parents and general education teachers, especially in the beginning, so that you can kind of get feedback. Observe students in multiple environments, hallways, lunches, recess, in their general education classroom.
Right.
Don't change everything at once. Pick 2 to 3 priorities, and sorry, I just muted myself. We can't do all of the things at once, so just picking 2 or 3 things to try, and even if it's just one, start with one. Start building your toolkit, thinking about sensory supports, visual aids, behavior strategies that you're going to try, and keeping some office hours available so that people can communicate with you, whether it be parents or other teachers, and just, again, staying consistent. So as we wrap up our first Spark Communities of Practice, I wanted to share some upcoming opportunities. That QR code is going to go to another virtual webinar. This is actually this week on the 27th at 3:30 to 4:15. This is about OAP. So if this is something that you're interested in learning more about, this would be a great training for you to attend. So please do grab that QR code, and I will work on adding these resources into the chat for you guys as well. See if I can multitask. Okay. Something else to consider is, again, our Spark Communities of Practice is September 22nd, I believe. And then I went ahead and linked our new Oklahoma Special Education Policy and Procedures Manual. If you have not yet added that bookmark to your computer, please do so. Any questions that you have, you should always turn to that thing and go to the table of contents, hit Control F to search what specific thing you're wondering about. But this is a free tool online, and this is Oklahoma's Special Education Policy and Procedures, and every special education teacher should have this bookmarked on their device. So in the chat, there are 3 links for you to grab those, make sure you have them. Before I move on to the last page, the last page is just if you have questions or if you are needing any supports, please do reach out to our team. We're all here to help. And also, I will open up the floor or the chat for any questions that anyone might have. Yes, SPED Bible. And this is the new one. Here's our contact information. Myself, Jasmin Brown, I'm the project manager for the SPDIG, which the Spark is affiliated with the SPDIG. And you've seen these names lots of times. Alexa Hudak, I'm sure you've seen that name lots of times. Benjamin Taylor, he's on the call as well. Wendy Hardwick and Stephanie Young, those are both of our instructional coaches as well. Oh, nice. Having your district print it. Yes. They have the printers. Print it out. Or those of you who are tech savvy, just save it so that it's easy to search. You can just control F any topic and then you can grab it.
Hey, Jasmine. I just sent you an email also, but for some reason I'm signed in under my friend's account. But it won't let me change the name. But I'm here. I'm Janae.
Okay. Thank
But it
you.
won't let me change my name on the thing. So I'm like, uh-oh.
Oh, no worries. That's fine.
Okay. Ignore my
Okay.
email then.
Okay. Okay. The chat is bubbling. Will you provide these slides for our use after? Sure, I can do that. And again, this whole presentation will be shared on our Spark Communities of Practice playlist. And so I'll be sure to send that out to everyone. Do you have a question? I have another student that moved from another district and her information is still not in EdPlan. I'm just wondering if anyone else is having trouble with the same thing. I'm going to turn to the chat on that one. Sometimes I know EdPlan can take a minute. Any of my colleagues has any other information on that, but I can take note. This is Lori Hills.
Yes,
So
there
we've
is
been told,
currently.
oh, sorry.
No,
Sorry.
you're fine. Your answer is probably correct. There is a challenge with transfer students. They are taking longer than anticipated, but EdPlan is aware of the problem. And if you are needing to do paperwork, you can do paper copies, like write them in paper copies. Most schools also have a sample school. If you get with your director, you can usually utilize a sample student to generate the paperwork. You'd still have to go and back in and upload it later. But
Yeah.
it is a known issue and it is being addressed.
Okay. I know we went ahead and had a meeting today and we had been emailed her records from her old school. So we just printed off the current records, marked out what we needed to add. And we just said we're accepting it as it is today because we, well, we wanted to make sure we were compliant with the 10 days of the move-in, but then she's also, her review is due September 15th. So I just don't, I'm worried that like, I don't know if it's going to affect me. And I mean, there's nothing I can do about it, that when we upload the stuff and the dates don't match, that it's not within the 10 days, but it really was. And all of that stuff.
As long as your paperwork is up to date and you have appropriate signatures, you can always upload those things and the data team can help you if it is flagging as out of compliance.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? All right, well, I won't hold anyone here. You guys are welcome to leave. Just a reminder that this is the Spark Communities of Practice. This is not the same as the Spark Council for Exceptional Children lives, so that you guys are well aware of that. Those are two different things. And those of you guys who are participating in that Spark program, please be sure you find your letter that you signed, because that has all the details and information in there that tells you step by step on how to access everything that you are getting. You're getting lots of great things, so please be sure you're accessing those. You guys have a great school year, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.